Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Marketers of the Universe podcast. Our session today is all around our paid media manager, Nasya Nasera. We are getting to know her, understanding her experience both at Brew and before Brew, understanding how she sees the marketing industry, and also looking at learning opportunities that she has made along the way that has led to her being a better and more well-rounded marketer. With me to have that conversation is our content marketing manager and my wonderful co-host, Tom Innes. Let's get on with the podcast.
So, Nasya, thank you so much for joining us today and getting into the hot seat. I thought we'll start with a super existential question of who is Nasya? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, a bit about Nasya. I've been in paid media marketing, especially in B2B for 5 to 6 years now. I'm also based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And yeah, that's all I can say.
That's like an excellent start. So you're a paid media marketer at Brew Digital, but you've been in marketing for 5 to 6 years, as you said. How did you start? Where was the beginning of your marketing career?
It's definitely not a straight path. Rarely does one wake up one day and decide to be a marketer. Maybe there are, but I've never heard that story before. But I always knew that I wanted to do something that involves with storytelling in general. So throughout my career, even during school, I dabbled into like journalism, teaching, even PR, sales, and now I'm here as a paid media marketer. So it's a lot of like trial and error. It's never a linear path. But then I found my love in marketing. And yes, now I'm here in Brew Digital.
What was it about marketing that you fell in love with?
Yeah, so well at a time, actually I was previously, I think 4 years ago. So I started in PR and then I did sales and business development. It was okay. It wasn't the best at that time. So I think it wasn't the best because I was the only salesperson in the company. So it was just me. And so I didn't really have like a team because I was working solo at the time. So I took the initiative and just tried to get to know the other departments, since I was working alone. So it's kind of sad at that time. So I became close, especially with the marketers, because sales and marketing do merge. And I was seeing the way they work day to day. And I like how when it comes to marketing, there's no right or wrong way to do things. Sometimes you think that this is the best way, but actually there's another way to do it. So I like the experimenting aspect of it, trial and error, see what works, see what doesn't work, and learn from there. So there's no like hard way of doing things. So I really like the testing and experimenting part. And I found my love in marketing mostly, 90% because of that, because of like the testing and experimenting with stuff.
Was that sort of love of iterating and testing what drew you straight to paid media, or did you try all of the different other aspects of marketing and land up there accidentally?
No, after that, after I spoken to like a few people within the department, I just dived straight into marketing. And I've been doing it for like almost 6 years now. So I just like how most marketers and the mentors that I had before, they're very curious people when it comes to working, and um I like how they're always researching on stuff, especially when it comes to like paid media. You know, platforms change every other week. So you have to be that person who wants to poke around, test weird ideas, and see what sticks. Um, so, yeah, after that, how they could simplify like metrics and data and explain the results in like plain English. I find that really interesting. And I've been trying to learn more about that. Um, I always say that if you can't translate like CTR or like ROIs into something that maybe your like parents or grandma would get, you're going to lose a lot of people fast. So I like how at the time they're able to like simplify things um, and turn mundane numbers and data into storytelling. So that really piqued my interest when it comes to paid media in general.
You mentioned in there as well trying weird things. You have any stories of or examples of where you've tried something that you just was a bit wacky and it was exciting to play with, whether it was successful or not doesn't matter, but any examples of that?
Um, Actually, well, it's not weird. I wouldn't say it's weird-ish to me, but when you think about like B2B, you think a lot of like rigid corporate jargon ads. So at the time, I know you kind of separate B2C and B2B messaging, but you have to remember whether it's like B2B or B2C, the person reading your ad or messaging or the creative that they see are still human. Um, so at that time previously, I moved away from your normal corporate jargon. So at first, my manager didn't really like that idea, but I pushed to kind of just test it anyway, to see if like B2C kind of marketing or messaging kind of applies to B2B. And our B2B ads at that time actually spiked the engagement because at the end of the day, um, as I mentioned, that it's still, you're still pushing your ads to like normal human beings. And usually when people are scrolling through like LinkedIn, you're doing it on their downtime or during lunchtime. So they hear a lot of like this corporate jargons a lot every day during meetings and all that. So yeah, I would say a mix between like B2B and B2C messaging at that time. So it's not really weird, but um it's hard to kind of like you have to, as a marketer, you need to stop putting certain people, I guess, in a box or certain industries in a box. So as long as you can get your message across, I feel like it would do well.
Cool. So, shall we get to the part that everybody is here to hear, which is your learning opportunity, or I think, as Hayden said, perhaps in one of his takes, where you screwed up and what you learned from it. So, have you come with a juicy story of something that you screwed up, Nasya?
Well, I guess when it comes to learning opportunities, well, throughout my entire career, there's a few, well, not there's a few, there's tons of learning opportunities. The first one, I'll get to the part where I screwed up later, but I guess the first one is there's tons of platforms out there, and a lot of platforms like LinkedIn, Google, Meta, they're getting better at finding the right audience. But if your creative doesn't speak to them, you've lost before you started. Um, so I've learned that the hard way that even the best targeting can't save a boring ad. Coming back to my, I guess, what I said about like, just because it's B2B doesn't mean that you can't humanize your messaging or copy. So I learned that the hard way, especially when you work in a company, well, not this company, previously, where it's very rigid and there's no room for creativity. Second is always to check when you do like optimizations and all that, especially when it comes to I don't know if I want to say it about the reason. Well, so I will keep it vague. Well, I think the biggest fuck up is when it comes to paid ads, you put a lot of budget into it. So, I guess I can tell from the previous, I can tell from my previous experience. I won't say anything related to Brew from my previous company. Well, one, I learned to never launch your ads during Fridays because no one is there to QA your ads during weekends. So if you put a lot of budget or if you accidentally switch between daily and lifetime budget, that would be a disaster. So I would say never launch your ads during Fridays and always double check between daily and lifetime budgets.
How much did you spend?
I would only tell stories for my previous companies.
That's fine. Okay, so check your budgets. Is a key learning.
It's a pretty solid one, though. I think it's also one of those ones that I'm pretty sure it's like in the catalogue of paid media experiences is that you have those paid budget challenges. We'll call them challenges.
Yeah, I agree, because especially when you feel like you really need to launch an ad or a campaign ASAP, sometimes it's okay to push back and tell the client, hey, can we launch it maybe during the early of the week? Because, well, statistically, if you launch your ads during like later during the week, people are in the weekend mood already. So it's definitely a good idea first to launch early during the week and never on Thursdays or Fridays. And second, always have someone to double check your budgets, because that's the most important thing. Um, Especially when the daily and lifetime spend is like above each other. It's easy to just click on one of those accidentally. So,
DUI issue is what you're saying.
yes.
See, I see. I think that as Hayden was saying, I think that this is sort of like the
Quintessential
experience. Yeah, it's the quintessential paid media experience, isn't it? Everybody goes through it. Michele, one of our other paid media managers, has told me that he's done a very similar thing, and I'm sure if we managed to pin Ross down, he'd probably confess to doing it once or twice as well. So I think everybody makes that mistake, but you learn from it, don't you?
That's the most important thing is learning from it. For someone, because there's going to be a paid media manager who's been in that situation before. How do you handle it? How do you handle it when you do that?
I would say definitely the first thing you do is to take accountability and definitely reach out to your superiors head on as fast as you can. Make sure to detail everything, what happened, how you could move forward, find a resolution, because mistakes can happen, but there's no use in kind of thinking about it um and thinking what you've done before. So past is past. Make sure you're taking the right steps into finding a solution or resolution in general. So I would say definitely be transparent as you can and take accountability and learn from your mistakes. Because human error does happen from time to time, but make sure you don't do the same mistakes over and over again. So I would say that's key, to just be transparent as possible.
And Hayden, as a manager, what is the best way to react if a subordinate tells you, "Hey, we've just spent the whole lifetime budget in 3 days or something"? How do you reinforce the learning while at the same time not completely demoralizing your staff?
I think you just scream at them as loud as you can and then shout and berate them. Make sure they really feel as little as possible, as small as possible. Sorry, not as little. That way, you kind of make sure that
It's reinforced.
Yeah, no. Obviously, I'm joking. I think it's really just about empathizing. It's about understanding that it's not been done maliciously. It's not been done on purpose. Understanding that it is an easy mistake to make. I think it's really about initially just kind of almost being there to comfort that person, professionally, obviously, and then kind of working with them to understand what went wrong, being honest, and making sure they know that actually, there's there's not a blame culture. Being honest, why it went wrong, how we can make sure it doesn't happen again, and then looking at the client or the account, or if you're in house, the budget that's been impacted, and finding ways to minimize the impact that's going to have on forward performance. I think that's how I would deal with it anyway.
And from a processes perspective, and this is a question for both of you, how do you stop this happening again? Obviously, as an individual, you're likely to never forget the first time you spent all of that money accidentally over a weekend. But how do you install systems that ensure that it doesn't happen again without then having a culture of 6 or 7 people doing eventual sign off? I should probably add.
Yeah. I feel like processes, obviously, before launching anything, you should have processes in place, but processes can evolve from time to time depending on case by case basis. So from what I learned, definitely set alerts, definitely check everything and not just at first glance, because sometimes because within certain platforms there's a lot of factors that you are looking into. You look at the ad copy, you look at for example, targeting. There's a lot of factors when it comes to build campaign. I would try to not be focused on one thing at a time. I would say set aside a time to just kind of check everything. So maybe this week could be checking about budgets this week. A few days later or the next week you should be checking about budget pacing. The next week you should be checking about I would say ad copy, whether it makes sense for your the ad copy and also the landing pages. So rather than checking everything at once at a time. I know it can be overwhelming at times, so try to find time to just block your calendar and set to check one, I guess, factor. No, factor isn't the right word. Element at a time. I would say that, and always have someone to QA, even when you think that it's a minor changes. Always have someone to kind of double check on your work.
Definitely. I think Nasya's rounded up most of the things that you can do. I think also adding in a QA check to your own work. It's really difficult, it's really easy sometimes to, when you're in a rush, just kind of get things done as quickly as possible. when you're playing with stuff like ads platforms that have a very, very easy interface to overspend, and I'll look at the ads platforms to why it's so easy to, adding in that QA, even if it takes an extra 5 minutes, just means you cover your back. If there's anyone who's junior, who's just starting out, if you can get into the practice of kind of like putting that into everything you do whenever you build a campaign, you will thank me and Nasya for hopefully being one of those few people who don't make this mistake. And then on top of that, it's just getting into the habit of, with your regular optimizations, just checking things like that are in the right place. Having a kind of comparison of the monthly report versus the budget, or your weekly report, or your live dashboards, and understanding that doesn't look right. Being in the accounts is going to help you to understand if something doesn't look quite right.
Perfect. So moving from looking backwards to looking forwards before we wrap up here, Nasya, conscious of time, what do you see on the horizon for paid media? Obviously, everybody's talking about AI at the moment, and we know that Google are implementing more and more AI learning methods of ad that seem to just spend more money. But your answer could be AI, or it could be something else, entirely up to you. What is on the horizon for paid media? What big changes do you see coming to practice or to strategies?
When we talk about AI or like the future of paid media, well, personally, for me, the future of paid media is less control, more guidance. So stop having tunnel vision a bit. So, more and more platforms are doing more of the heavy lifting with AI. So our job kind of shifts from micromanaging every single thing to setting the right signals, crafting strong creative, and make sure you feed your platforms, whatever that you're using, quality data. So I would say it's with AI, obviously you can't hand everything to AI, but it's more of like less hands-on, but more of like a strategic director role, I suppose. So yeah, try to have less control and just more of just feeding whatever platforms that you're using the right data that you have.
Excellent. Thank you. Last question. If you weren't in paid media, what section of marketing would you go into?
Section of marketing.
Would you go into social? Would you go into content? Would you do, what's the one? SEO?
Or would you leave and tame lions?
Yes.
Actually, I really wanted to be a marine biologist before this. So, but if I have to pick within marketing, I would say content. Because coming back to like how I got into marketing in the first place, because I really am drawn to the storytelling aspect of it. So I would say content.
The best marketing is ultimately storytelling.
That's true.
The best reporting is storytelling. The best marketing is storytelling. The best connection is made through stories.
It's the human experience.
There you go.
There we go.
This is Nasya Nasera, Queen of Stories.
Great. Thank you so much, Nasya, for joining us today. And storytelling is just so important to everything that we do at Brew Digital, but it should be important to everything we do in marketing. And I don't think we're going to top that. So I'm going to hand it over to Hayden to wrap up this podcast.
Thank you, Tom. We are moving from the dulcet tones of Tom and Nasya to my voice. But that is all we have time for today. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We really hope you found some useful snippets from our chat with Nasya, and hopefully feel a little bit better about that time that you overspend your budget by accident. We love that you've made it this far through your listen. We really enjoy making this content. We would really love it if you could go and recommend the show to a friend or colleague that you think would enjoy listening. Thank you, as always, to the Brew Digital team, Nasya in particular this time, for their input in today's session. Make sure to go check out our past episodes, subscribe on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts, and we will see you in the next one. I've been Hayden, and these are the Marketers of the Universe.